If there was one word through which I would describe the modern left, it is insincere. There is nothing more infuriating to me than watching the left talk about things which they obviously know are not true, and yet will completely deny any legitimacy to the other side of the argument anyhow. They will continually simply ignore all of the problems with their arguments, completely ignore all of the blatant lies that many of even their fellows say, and then, when all of these lies come out, pretend as though they had nothing to do with promulgating such. And this is no better represented than in the Chris Cuomo situation, because CNN, in case you haven't noticed, suspended and then later fired Chris Cuomo, and in the process pretended as though they did not know he existed, because they had Brian Stetler come up and, with his bald potato head, show up on CNN and talk about Chris Cuomo's firing as if he had no idea at all until just this second, as though he was reporting a story he was getting from some outside source, and as if he's not an employee of CNN himself. He went on to say that, oh, there was many problems with Chris Cuomo and all of his journalistic ethics violations, things which he never deigned to talk about at any point during his actual existence in the network. Brian Stetler never had a bad word to say about Chris Cuomo until 2.5 seconds ago, and the reason for that is because Brian Stetler is a massive liar and disingenuous and insincere. All of these things. You know that Brian Stetler is a CNN insider and knows that this investigation into Chris Cuomo was going on behind the scenes. He knew all of those things, and yet look at his wording. He says, we didn't know that there was an investigation going on behind the scenes, when obviously he at least did. Where's the we here? Because it turns out, Brian Stetler, I am not a CNN insider. I don't know what goes on behind in backroom politics. I can make some guesses. For instance, I can make a guess that you probably know about every investigation that's going on in CNN, or at least have heard about it. I can guess at all of that sort of stuff, but I don't know. You do! So where is the we here? And yet, he will continually try and pretend as though he has nothing to do with both CNN and Chris Cuomo. It's amazing to see all of this sort of stuff happening, and it's especially funny to see in contrast to Chris Cuomo's statement, which was very amicable, and he was like, okay, I'm leaving, but I enjoyed working here, and yada, yada, yada. All the sort of stuff you expect from someone leaving a company forcibly. And it's just infinitely interesting to me that CNN will lie this blatantly. And it's not even as though anyone actually believes they didn't know what was going on with Chris Cuomo. Heck, space aliens on a different planet smorgasbord already knew that Chris Cuomo was being completely violating journalistic ethics because with his massive old Q-pick and all that sort of stuff. They already knew because he was on CNN interviewing his brother, who was the governor of New York, on CNN, and giving him softball questions and all of that. Everyone knew that. So the idea that that CNN and Brian Stetler had no idea at all this was happening until just right this second is simply absurd. It doesn't work on any level, and yet they will continue to push it. And this goes for the left more broadly, let's be clear, because this isn't the only example of blatant, obvious, and completely provable lies that have been going on the left just over the past day. I mean, look at AOC. She is now going into damage control mode for the rampant shoplifting and looting that has been going on among many big cities for about a month now. There have been many videos of this exact thing happening all over the internet from all sorts of places, mostly centered in places like San Francisco and other places in California where it's basically legal to shoplift anything you want so long as it's not over $1,000. You've seen a lot of those sorts of videos, and a lot of people just letting it happen. Police officers, of course, aren't going to show up because they literally can't prosecute these people, and yet you will still have AOC state, after all of these videos come out, and I'm sure she's seen it, considering that she's opining on this particular subject, and had to have known the subject exists, which she could only have known if she's seen some of the videos and some of the online postings about it, or otherwise discussions. She still says that there is very little evidence for this phenomenon happening, which, seriously? Does anyone take this woman seriously? Are we really at the point in time in which we can just completely ignore all reality in order to say, well, yeah, well, there is a lot of shoplifting, but it's not organized. It's not as though there's 70, 80 people all storming into a single building all at once. It's not as though we can see the obvious organization happening on screen. No. All of that's just spontaneous or not existing at all. There's no shoplifting problem whatsoever. It's not even gaslighting, because I wouldn't describe what their intentions as being trying to make the people on the right insane, or even look insane, because these lies are so obvious, are so completely verifiable by everyone with two brain cells to rub together, that there is no way that anyone believes any of this. No one actually believes that Stettler had no idea what was going on in the CNN backrooms. There is no one who believes that AOC believes that there is no problem with shoplifting because, well, everyone's seen the videos, or everyone at least who's looked into this issue, I hope. And that is sort of the essentiality here. They are just completely insincere. They're not gaslighting, as I've already stated. I don't think their point is actually to convince you of anything, maybe other than the fact that the idea that people are insane. What they're trying to do is simply lie for lying's sake. All they're trying to do is deny what is obviously the case for their own conscience, basically. I mean, I had a similar interaction, more personal, just recently. In case you haven't heard, there's a thing called Battletech is for Everyone, which is being run by Razorfist. personally am new to the Battletech hobby. I just got into it quite recently, and I posted under one of the threads made by Razorfist on Twitter, simply stating that I had got a new thing, I'm getting into the hobby, all that sort of stuff, that whatever the message wasn't particularly adverse to me. And I got responded to by the person that Razor was responding to through a screenshot, where he feigns good intentions, saying that he wasn't intending to get someone fired at all, expecting that I would just capitulate, or trying to feign his good intentions to the point where if I didn't capitulate, I would look like the bad guy. Of course, all of this completely ignoring the fact that if you could read and initially looked at the original screenshot, you would have noticed that everything he was saying was absolutely a lie. And that is my central problem with leftists. They simply lie, and it's so obvious. My problem is not that they are wrong. It is not that they are mistaken about one thing or another, because frankly, I take a fool over a liar any day of the week, because a fool is not intentionally trying to mislead me. They are simply, in good faith, trying to convince me of something which is not true. Compare this to a liar, someone who is intentionally telling you something which is not true, and verifiably so, because they want to either convince you of something, or convince you that you're crazy for for believing what is actually the case. These people are much more dangerous than anyone who is simply foolish, and there is no argument that there is ever more of a danger from a fool than a liar. I can never trust a liar, because a liar is not intent on changing or seeking the truth at all. I can at least trust a fool to be foolish. I can't trust a liar to be so, because they are doing it with intention. And that is the central problem. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. If you enjoyed that video, do subscribe down below and check me out on other platforms. I have BitChute, I have Brighteon, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rumble, and all of those links are down in the description. I'm KelKidman, this has been Breaking on the Daily, and I'm out.